Imagine this. Every time someone says something that bothers you, every time life sends a challenge your way, you react right away. You argue, you defend yourself, you feel hurt, and when it's all over you feel tired, empty, asking yourself why peace never stays. But what if the problem was never the world? What if the real struggle is inside you, between your reaction and your awareness? Buddhism teaches that life will keep repeating the same lesson until you learn to remain calm. The moment you stop reacting, you stop feeding the chaos, you stop being controlled, and you begin to see clearly. Because real change doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens when your mind is no longer disturbed. This is where transformation begins, in silence, in self-control, in the space between the trigger and your response. Here, we will uncover the lessons that teach you how to stop reacting and finally change the direction of your life. Life repeats what you refuse to learn. Life has a strange way of bringing the same situations back again and again until you finally understand the lesson behind them. Many people believe they are unlucky when the same pain or problem returns. But the truth is, life is not punishing them. It is teaching them. The universe works like a calm, patient teacher. It doesn't move you forward to the next lesson until you fully learn the current one. Every irritating person, every unfair moment, every disappointment is not a coincidence. They are mirrors showing you what still triggers you inside. Think about it. The people who make you angry are pointing to where your peace is still weak. Those who ignore you are teaching you the importance of self-acceptance. The situations that keep stressing you are gentle reminders that you still depend on control instead of trust. Life uses these moments like mirrors to help you see yourself more clearly. It's not the situation that keeps repeating. It's your emotional reaction that calls it back. As long as you respond with the same anger, fear, or attachment, the cycle continues. The universe will keep placing you in the same emotional classroom until you choose a different response. If you always react with frustration when someone disrespects you, you'll continue meeting people who do the same until you learn to remain calm and unaffected. The moment you choose peace over reaction, the test fades away because you've grown beyond it. The lesson is never really about the other person. It's about your inner growth. Every challenge you face has a message. Will you stay the same, or will you rise higher this time? And the moment you face that situation with awareness, patience, and stillness, something shifts. Life recognizes your growth. The old cycle begins to fade because there's no more energy keeping it alive. You've passed the test. You've proven that you no longer need that lesson. In Buddhism, this is known as karma, as education, not punishment. Karma is not about revenge or suffering, it's about reflection and learning. If you react with anger, you'll meet anger. If you respond with love and understanding, life sends you peace. The world outside you changes when the world inside you changes. So instead of asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That one question can end a lifetime of repetition. The truth is simple. Your reactions decide the rhythm of your reality. If you meet every storm with panic, more storms will come to test your calm. But if you meet them with silence and wisdom, the weather changes inside and outside. The day you stop reacting, you stop attracting the same pain. You begin to vibrate at a different level, and life naturally shifts to meet your new state of being. The same people, the same problems, will no longer have the same power over you. So, the next time something or someone tries to disturb your peace, pause, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is not punishment, it's a mirror. See it, understand it, and respond with calm. That is how life transforms. When you master your inner world, the outer world no longer needs to repeat the same lessons. you'll realize that life has always been rooting for your growth, patiently guiding you toward peace through every storm you once called suffering. 2. Between stimulus and response lies freedom. There is a small, invisible space between what happens to you and how you react to it, and in that space lies your entire power. Most people move through life without ever recognizing that space. Something happens, someone says something offensive, and before they even realize it, they're already reacting angry, hurt, defensive, or anxious. Their emotions grab the wheel and drive their actions. But the truth is, this automatic reaction is not freedom, it's slavery to the mind. Buddhist philosophy teaches that awareness, pure observation, is the key to liberation. When someone insults you, pause before you respond. You were born free, but you forgot this truth. Every time you react, you drift away. Every time you pause, breathe, and choose stillness over struggle, you return home to the quiet, unbreakable, eternal peace that has always lived within you. That is real freedom, the kind no person, no event, and no storm can ever take away. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when you realize that life is not meant to be controlled, it is meant to be understood. Every storm, every person who tests your patience, every loss, and every disappointment were never punishments. They were invitations to grow. Life was never trying to break you. It was trying to teach you how to stay whole in the middle of chaos. And the lesson it keeps gently repeating is always the same. Stop reacting. When you stop reacting, you stop living only on the surface of life. You stop being thrown around by every wave of emotion and finally begin to feel the ocean beneath it all, vast, deep, and timeless. That ocean is your awareness. It does not panic when the waves rise because it knows they will fall again. The same truth applies to your life. Everything you worry about today, anger, stress, judgment, rejection, will pass. What remains is the peace that has always been within you, waiting to be noticed. Reaction is the language of the unweakened mind. Stillness is the language of the wise. The more you practice pausing before you respond, the stronger you become. You begin to see that peace is not something you need to chase. It is what appears when you stop fighting with life. This is what the Buddha meant when he said, "Peace comes from within. Do not search for it outside yourself." When you stop reacting, you stop becoming a victim of life's movements. You become the silent witness, calm, patient, and aware. People may still misunderstand you. Challenges may still arise, but they no longer have the power to steal your serenity, because your strength no longer comes from control. It comes from surrender. You have learned to live from your center, not from your chaos. This is the transformation every awakened soul goes through, the shift from reaction to realization. You begin to see that your inner peace is not fragile, it is eternal. You stop rushing to fix everything because you trust that life unfolds in its own perfect timing. You no longer argue to prove your worth because you know that truth needs no defense. You no longer hold on to anger because you understand that carrying it is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Instead, you move through life with a quiet heart, steady, gentle, and aware. You listen more than you speak. You begin to observe more than you react. And slowly you notice that the same world that once made you anxious now feels calm. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped being the storm and became the sky that holds it. So as you move forward, remember this. Life will continue to test you. People will still provoke you. Situations will keep changing, but peace is not found by avoiding these moments. It is found in how you face them. Each time you choose stillness over chaos, calm over reaction, and understanding over judgment, you build a deeper kind of strength. The strength of a mind that cannot be shaken and a heart that cannot be broken. The true victory in life is not about defeating others, but about mastering yourself. Because the moment you master your reactions, you master your reality. And from this place of quiet strength, you finally understand the truth all great teachers have shared. The world changes the moment you stop reacting to it and begin to see it as it truly is. A mirror reflecting your inner peace. That is the end of suffering. That is enlightenment. That is freedom. When a situation goes wrong, breathe before you decide what to do. That short pause, that sacred gap, is where freedom begins. It's the difference between living as a puppet of your emotions and becoming the master of your own peace. Every time you resist the urge to react immediately, you weaken the chain that keeps you tied to your impulses. Imagine two people in the same situation. One gets angry and starts yelling, feeding the fire of negativity. The other takes a deep breath, stays quiet, and observes the situation calmly. The event is the same. The difference is the space one person created between the trigger and the response. That's the space of mindfulness. In that space, you can choose how to act instead of letting the emotion choose for you. The Buddha once said, "Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. When your mind reacts instantly, it acts without wisdom. But when you pause, you give your higher awareness time to step in. That pause transforms chaos into clarity. You begin to see that most things are not as personal as they seem. People act out of their own pain, their own ignorance, their own story. When you realize this, compassion replaces anger, and peace replaces reaction. Learning to pause doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means understanding them. It's noticing your anger rise and choosing not to let it speak for you. It's feeling sadness without drowning in it. It's hearing criticism without letting it destroy your confidence. This control doesn't come from cold detachment, but from gentle awareness, from knowing that your emotions are visitors, not masters. The more you practice this, the more powerful that gap becomes. You begin to feel time slow down between the moment something happens and your response. You start to see thoughts come and go without attaching to them. That's the beginning of true freedom, when you realize that nothing can make you react unless you give it permission. This awareness turns your entire life into meditation. Every argument becomes an opportunity to stay calm. Every frustration becomes a reminder to breathe. Every insult becomes a test of your inner stillness. When you live this way, your peace is no longer fragile. It becomes unshakable. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember, there's power in the pause. Between the stimulus and your response lies your evolution. In that moment, you can either repeat your past reactions or rise above them. Choose to pause. Choose awareness. Because in that small, quiet space, that single breath, you'll find your freedom. Emotions are waves. Don't drown in them. Your emotions are not who you are. They are visitors passing through the vast ocean of your consciousness. Just like waves in the sea, they rise, they crash, and then they fade away. But most people make the mistake of jumping into every wave that comes their way. When anger rises, they become anger. When sadness appears, they become sadness. When fear shows up, they become fear. And soon, they find themselves drowning in emotions they were only meant to observe. Buddhism teaches that emotions are temporary energies, not permanent identities. You are the ocean, deep, calm, and vast. Your emotions are just waves on your surface. The problem begins when you start to identify with those waves. You forget that beneath the surface, you are still untouched, still infinite. When you say, "I am angry," you've already lost your freedom. But when you say, "Anger is arising in me," you've separated your awareness from the emotion, and in that separation, peace begins. Imagine sitting by the shore, watching the waves roll in. Some are gentle, others crash with force, but you don't try to stop them. You don't jump into the water to fight them. You simply observe, and eventually, every wave dissolves back into the stillness of the sea. That is how your emotions should be treated. Observe them, let them come, let them go. The untrained mind reacts instantly, trying to fight or control emotions, but the wise mind simply witnesses, knowing that no storm lasts forever. When anger comes, notice the heat rising in your body, the quickness of your breath, the tension in your chest. Just observe it. Don't push it away, but don't feed it either. When sadness comes, feel it without labeling it as bad. Let it flow through you, like rain cleansing the earth. When fear visits, sit with it, watch its shape, understand it. The act of observing transforms the emotion. The more aware you are, the less control it has over you. The Buddha compared the mind to a clear pond. When emotions stir it up, the water becomes muddy, you can't see clearly. But if you sit in stillness and wait, the mud settles on its own, and clarity returns. That's what happens when you stop reacting. The emotion fades, and the truth becomes visible again. Every time you remain calm in the face of a powerful emotion, you strengthen your inner stability. Don't misunderstand this. Being calm doesn't mean you're numb or emotionless. It means you experience emotions fully without becoming their prisoner. You feel deeply, but you don't lose yourself. That's emotional intelligence at its highest form, awareness without attachment. When you no longer identify with every wave, your life becomes lighter, clearer, and more peaceful. The world around you will always create waves. People will offend you. Disappointments will come. Things won't go as planned. But your goal is not to stop the waves. It's to learn how to surf them without losing balance. The art of life is not about escaping emotion, but mastering how you relate to it. So, the next time you feel anger, sadness, jealousy, or fear rising within you, pause and remind yourself, this is just a wave. It's temporary. Let it move through you without grabbing hold of it. Be the watcher, not the wave. Because the moment you stop fighting emotions and start observing them, you stop drowning and start floating in the peaceful awareness that you were never the storm. You were always the sky above it. 4. Detachment is not coldness. It's clarity. Many people misunderstand the word detachment. They think it means being emotionless, distant, or uncaring, as if detachment requires you to abandon your feelings or relationships. But in truth, detachment is the purest form of love and clarity. It means seeing things as they are without being blinded by emotion or desire. It's the ability to love deeply without losing your peace, to care fully without being consumed, and to be involved in life without being imprisoned by it. In Buddhism, detachment is called upeksha, which means equanimity, a balanced, unshaken state of mind that remains calm amidst chaos. When you are detached, you don't become a cold observer. You become a wise one. You stop clinging to things, people, and outcomes as if your happiness depends on them. You begin to see that everything in life is temporary emotions, possessions, even the people you love. When you understand this truth, you don't stop loving. You love without fear. You no longer hold on out of desperation, but out of freedom. Imagine holding a butterfly in your palm. If you squeeze too tightly, you crush it. If you hold too loosely, it flies away. But if you hold it gently, it stays free, yet connected. That is what detachment feels like. It's not about letting go of people or dreams. It's about letting go of the need to control them. When you can love with open hands, you free both yourself and the other person. The attached mind says, "I'll be happy only when things go my way." The detached mind says, "I'll be peaceful no matter what happens." One is fragile, the other is free. Attachment turns love into possession and passion into suffering. You start depending on others for validation, for comfort, for a sense of identity. But once you detach, you find that everything you were chasing from the outside was already inside you. Peace, love, completeness. Detachment is also clarity, seeing the truth beyond illusion. When you're too emotionally involved, your perception gets cloudy. You take things personally. You mistake temporary emotions for permanent realities. You start reacting to every small shift in others' behavior, every change in circumstance. But when you practice detachment, you rise above that noise. You see people for who they are, not for what you want them to be. You see situations as lessons, not punishments. You respond from wisdom, not from wounds. This is why the Buddha taught the middle path, neither clinging nor rejecting, but walking in balance. When you attach to pleasure, you suffer when it fades. When you attach to pain, you suffer by keeping it alive. True freedom is the ability to experience both without being enslaved by either. Detachment allows you to walk through fire without being burned, to experience loss without being broken, and to face life's changes without fear. Let's be clear. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. The detached person still loves, still helps, still feels. But they do it from a space of understanding, not dependency. They can give without expecting, forgive without resentment, and walk away without bitterness. Because their peace does not depend on external conditions, it comes from within. When you become detached, you stop chasing happiness and start embodying it. You no longer look for security in unstable things. You understand that everything, joy, pain, love and loss, flows through the same stream of impermanence. You start valuing peace over drama, presence over approval, truth over comfort. That's when you begin to see the world as it truly is, not through the fog of desire, but through the light of wisdom. So when people accuse you of being too calm or too detached, remember, it's not that you don't care. It's that you care differently. You've stopped letting emotions dictate your reality. You've stopped reacting to every pull of life like a puppet on strings. Instead, you've chosen to stand still in your own center, watching life unfold with grace and understanding. Detachment is the art of living fully, loving freely, and walking lightly. It is strength disguised as serenity. It is power rooted in peace. When you master detachment, you don't escape the world. You finally learn how to live in it without being controlled by it. You become the calm in the storm, the clear sky behind every cloud. And in that stillness, you discover a truth that changes everything. You were never meant to cling, you were meant to flow. 5. Don't let external noise control your inner silence. We live in a world that constantly pulls at our attention, a world built on noise. Notifications blink, opinions flood our screens, comparisons fill our minds, and chaos becomes the background music of daily life. Most people don't even realize how addicted they are to reacting to this constant noise. The phone buzzes, they check it. Someone disagrees, they argue. The world whispers, and they immediately answer. But the truth is, the more you respond to the noise outside, the less you can hear the stillness within. In Buddhism, silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. Inner silence is a state where the mind is no longer constantly pulled by every passing wave of distraction, fear, and desire. It is not something you create, it's something you uncover. Beneath all the noise, beneath all the worries and thoughts, There's a quiet space that has always existed inside you. That's where peace lives, not in the outer world, but within your own consciousness. Most people never experience this because they've forgotten how to be still. They wake up and immediately reach for their phones, scroll through chaos, consume opinions, and fill their minds with other people's thoughts before they've even heard their own. The mind becomes cluttered, restless, and anxious. You begin to react not from clarity, but from confusion. You stop living intentionally and start living reactively, always chasing, always comparing, always consuming. But inner peace can never survive in a mind that is always loud. Learning to silence your mind doesn't mean escaping from the world. It means mastering how you respond to it. The world will always make noise, people will always talk, events will always happen, and chaos will always exist somewhere. You cannot stop that, but you can choose what you give your energy to. You can choose to remain centered no matter how loud the world becomes. That's what inner silence truly means, being in the middle of the storm but untouched by its winds. The Buddha often retreated to solitude, not to run away from life, but to reconnect with the rhythm of existence. In silence, he found truth, because silence reveals what words often hide. When you sit quietly without distraction, you start to see your thoughts more clearly. You realize how often your mind creates noise, even when the world is quiet. You see how your fears replay old memories, how your ego feeds on drama, and how peace is lost in the endless search for validation. The practice of silence, even for a few minutes each day, begins to change everything. Try sitting alone, without your phone, without music, without doing anything. Just breathe. Notice how uncomfortable it feels at first. That discomfort is the sound of withdrawal, your mind missing its usual chaos. But if you stay with it, something magical happens. The thoughts begin to slow down. The noise starts to fade. You begin to hear the subtle hum of existence, your heartbeat, your breath, the life flowing through you. That is the sound of silence. Once you begin to nurture this inner stillness, your reactions naturally weaken. Someone insults you, you don't respond with anger, because you can hear the quiet voice inside that says, "This is not worth your peace." Someone tries to provoke you. You remain calm, because your silence is stronger than their noise. You realize that peace is not something given by others. It's something you protect within yourself. The more you connect to your inner silence, the less the world can control you. You no longer get pulled into gossip, arguments, or drama. You no longer seek attention or approval because your worth doesn't need an audience. You begin to walk through life with a quiet confidence, a steady heart, and an unshakable calm. People may wonder how you stay so peaceful amidst chaos. It's because you've learned to tune your inner frequency to silence, not noise. In Buddhism, there's a saying, the quieter you become, the more you hear. And what you begin to hear is not the noise of the world, but the truth of your own being. You start hearing wisdom instead of worry, love instead of judgment, intuition instead of impulse. Your mind, once a battlefield, becomes a temple. So, protect your silence. Don't give it away to every meaningless distraction. Unplug when needed. Create daily moments where you return to stillness. Because silence is not weakness, it is power in its purest form. It's the strength to remain calm when the world screams for your reaction. It's the wisdom to choose peace over attention and truth over noise. When you live from that space of inner quiet, nothing outside can truly disturb you. You begin to understand that real power doesn't come from controlling others or winning arguments. It comes from mastering yourself. And when your mind becomes silent, even the loudest world can no longer touch the peace that lives within you. 6. Acceptance is the end of suffering. One of the deepest truths the Buddha ever shared was this: it is not what happens to you that causes suffering, It is your resistance to what happens. Every time life unfolds in a way you didn't expect, a relationship ends, a plan fails, someone disappoints you, your mind instantly begins to fight reality. It says, this shouldn't have happened. Why me? This isn't fair. And in that resistance, suffering is born. The event itself is rarely what destroys your peace. It's your refusal to accept it that keeps the pain alive. Acceptance does not mean you approve of everything that happens. It does not mean you stop caring or give up on change. Acceptance simply means seeing things as they are, without distortion, without denial, without emotional war. It is looking at reality and saying, this is what it is right now. I don't have to like it, but I will not fight against it. That is the beginning of freedom. Because when you stop resisting life, you stop giving energy to the struggle that keeps you trapped in suffering. Most people spend their lives wishing the past had been different and fearing the future will not go as planned. But both are illusions. The past no longer exists, and the future hasn't arrived. The only thing that truly exists is this moment. When you resist it, you disconnect from reality and live inside a mental storm of what-ifs and if only. Acceptance pulls you out of that storm and grounds you in the truth. And once you are grounded, peace naturally begins to rise. Think of a river. It flows effortlessly around rocks, bends and branches. It doesn't argue with obstacles. It simply finds a way through. But when you resist, you are like a person standing in that river, trying to stop the current with your hands. The more you push against it, the more exhausted and frustrated you become. Acceptance is letting go of the fight and flowing again. It doesn't mean you stop swimming. It means you swim with the current, not against it. In Buddhist wisdom, the root of suffering is attachment, the mind's habit of clinging to how things should be instead of accepting how they are. You attach to outcomes, to identities, to expectations, and when reality doesn't match your script, pain follows. The mind says, I'll be happy when, or I can't be happy unless. But the truth is, happiness has nothing to do with conditions. It comes from peace, and peace only exists in the acceptance of now. When you learn to accept life as it is, you begin to see its deeper intelligence. You realize that sometimes not getting what you want is a blessing in disguise, that endings are often beginnings wearing different clothes, and that pain itself can be a great teacher. Acceptance allows you to step back and trust that there's a larger pattern unfolding, one that your limited perspective can't yet see. Let's say someone betrays your trust. Your first instinct is to resist, to replay what happened, to wish it were different, to hold on to anger. But if you look deeper, acceptance teaches you something profound. You cannot control how others act, only how you respond. Their behavior is their karma, your reaction is yours. Once you accept that truth, your energy shifts from blame to wisdom. You begin to understand that life is not here to hurt you, it's here to evolve you. Acceptance also heals the body. When you live in resistance, your nervous system is always in fight or flight. You feel tense, anxious and drained. But when you surrender to what is, your body relaxes. The breath deepens, the mind clears, and the heart opens. You begin to operate from peace instead of panic. You start responding from calm awareness rather than emotional chaos. This is not easy. The ego thrives on control. It wants everything to fit its story. But life doesn't follow your plans. It follows its own divine rhythm. The more you try to force it, the more it pushes back. True strength is not in control, it's in surrender. Acceptance doesn't mean you become passive. It means your actions flow from clarity, not from conflict. When you accept reality, your choices become wiser, because they're rooted in truth, not illusion. Acceptance is also the foundation of forgiveness. You cannot forgive someone until you accept what happened. You cannot move on until you stop wishing it were different. Acceptance allows you to make peace with your past so that it no longer poisons your present. It turns wounds into wisdom and mistakes into lessons. It teaches you that everything that came your way, even the painful parts, were necessary steps on your journey of growth in meditation. Acceptance is a living practice. You sit quietly and thoughts, feelings and sensations arise. Instead of rejecting them, you allow them to be you. Don't chase the pleasant ones or push away the unpleasant. You simply observe. In that simple act of allowing, you discover something miraculous. The more you accept what arises, the faster it dissolves. Resistance feeds the storm. Acceptance dissolves it. So when life doesn't go your way, pause and whisper to yourself, "I accept this moment as it is." Feel the weight lift off your heart. Acceptance doesn't mean you won't act. It means your actions will come from a place of peace instead of pain. You'll stop being dragged by life and start dancing with it. And that is the essence of enlightenment: to see clearly, to stop fighting what is, and to trust the flow of existence, because in the end, it was never life that caused your suffering. It was your refusal to let life be what it is. When you accept that truth, deeply suffering dissolves, and what remains is freedom. The quiet, radiant peace of simply being seven. Stillness is the highest form of strength. The world often celebrates noise, the loudest opinions, the biggest reactions, the fastest responses. We are taught from childhood that strength means fighting back, arguing, proving, defending, and conquering. But real strength has nothing to do with how loudly you roar. It has everything to do with how quietly you can stand. True power is not in reacting. It is in remaining still when everything around you is shaking. Stillness is not weakness. It is the ultimate mastery of self. Buddhism teaches that stillness is not simply the absence of movement. It is the presence of deep awareness. It is a state where you no longer move from fear, anger, or ego, but from clarity. When your mind becomes still, your perception sharpens. You begin to see reality without the distortion of emotion. You understand that you do not have to respond to everything that demands your attention. You realize that peace itself is a form of wisdom. Imagine a calm lake on a quiet morning. Its surface reflects the sky perfectly because there are no ripples disturbing it. But when the wind blows and waves form, the reflection disappears. The lake still exists, but you can no longer see its depth or its beauty. The same happens with your mind. When anger, fear, or anxiety stir it up, you lose sight of your inner truth. You start reacting blindly. But when you become still, clarity returns, and you begin to see everything as it truly is. Most people believe that being still means doing nothing. But inner stillness is not about inactivity. It's about stability. It means you can move through life with calm precision instead of emotional chaos. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent. Stillness gives birth to wisdom, and wisdom gives birth to the right action. When someone provokes you and you remain calm, that is strength. When life throws uncertainty at you and you trust instead of panic, that is strength. When everything feels like it's falling apart and yet you stay grounded in faith, that is strength. The world calls it silence. Buddhism calls it mastery. Stillness doesn't mean the world around you will stop testing you. People will still misunderstand you. Challenges will still appear, but your relationship to them changes. Instead of being pulled into the storm, you become the unmoving center of it. You stop fighting every wave and start flowing with it. You stop trying to control outcomes and begin to align with what is. And in that surrender, you find the kind of power that can't be shaken by any external force. There's a story in Buddhist tradition about a monk who was once insulted by a traveler. The monk listened quietly and didn't say a word. The traveler grew angrier and finally asked, "Why don't you respond to me? Can't you hear me?" The monk smiled gently and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man fell silent. That's the power of stillness. When you don't react, the negativity has nowhere to land. It returns to where it came from. Stillness is not passive, it's an active choice. It requires discipline, awareness, and maturity. It takes strength to stay silent when you are misunderstood, to stay calm when you are tested, to stay kind when you are hurt. But that is the kind of strength that transforms your entire life. Because the more still you become, the less power the outside world has over you. In stillness, you begin to notice how everything comes and goes. Thoughts, emotions, people, events. You watch them rise and fall like clouds passing through the sky. Nothing stays forever, and the more you realize this, the less you cling. You start living with a kind of softness, unbothered by the temporary, grounded in the eternal. You no longer need to win arguments or prove your worth. Your peace becomes your silent proof. This is why monks, sages, and enlightened beings radiate such calm energy, because they've stopped reacting to the surface of life. Their power comes from deep presence, not from dominance. Their silence speaks louder than any words. In the middle of chaos, they remain a mountain, unmoving, unshakable, deeply rooted in truth. That's the strength you begin to build when you practice stillness. In modern life, we mistake speed for progress. We think the faster we move, the more we achieve. But stillness teaches you that clarity is more valuable than speed. A calm mind makes better decisions. A peaceful heart carries more endurance. A quiet soul sees further than a restless one. When you learn to be still, you begin to act with wisdom instead of impulse. You begin to create instead of react. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This is the essence of stillness. It is the realization that nothing in the outside world can give you lasting peace. It can only awaken what's already inside you. When you stop reacting to the outer world, you start aligning with your inner one. That's when life begins to change, not because circumstances have shifted, but because your inner state has. So the next time chaos surrounds you, when people test you, when plans collapse, when the future looks uncertain, don't rush to react. Close your eyes, breathe. Return to that still space within you. That's your true home. That's where your strength lives. Every time you choose calm over reaction, awareness over impulse, silence over noise, you become unshakable. And one day you'll realize that stillness is not something you practice. It's what you are. Beneath the noise, beneath the mind, beneath every thought and emotion, you've always been still. You've always been whole. You've always been free. The world only loses its power over you when you remember that truth. Because in the end, it's not the loudest person who is the strongest. It's the one who can stand in absolute stillness and smile, knowing that nothing external can disturb the peace that already lives within. 8. The power to stop reacting is the power to transform your life. Every transformation begins the moment you stop reacting to life and start observing it. For most people, life feels like a constant battle rushing from one reaction to another. From one emotional storm to the next, someone says something cruel and they immediately snap back. A plan falls apart and frustration takes over. A delay, a disappointment, a word, a glance, and suddenly their peace is gone. They live as if every situation owns a piece of their mind, but the truth is nothing and no one has power over you unless you give it to them through your reactions. When you stop reacting, you don't become lifeless. You become powerful because reaction is a reflex of the untrained mind. But response is the action of the awakened one. Reaction comes from emotion, ego, and habit. Response comes from awareness, wisdom, and understanding. The more you learn to pause before reacting, the more you reclaim your energy from the chaos of the world. You start living deliberately instead of emotionally. You begin to create life instead of being dragged by it. Buddhism teaches that when you react, you are like a puppet controlled by external strings. Anger pulls you one way, fear pulls you another, pride drags you forward, and guilt holds you back. But when you cultivate awareness, you cut those strings one by one. You begin to see life as a series of events that arise and pass, not as personal attacks or rewards. You stop taking everything so personally because you realize that most of what others say or do comes from their own suffering, not from your worth. This shift changes everything. Imagine walking through your day completely at peace. Not because life is perfect, but because nothing can shake you. Someone criticizes you, and instead of reacting, you listen. You may even smile. Not from arrogance, but from understanding that their words are simply waves passing through air. You know that your peace is too precious to be traded for temporary anger. You start seeing challenges not as punishments, but as opportunities to strengthen your calm. Every reaction you withhold is not suppression, it's mastery. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the energy of negativity. The angry person loses their power over you. The toxic situation stops growing because you no longer give it fuel. Silence becomes your strength, and presence becomes your armor. The world may continue shouting, but you no longer echo it back. You absorb it, transform it, and release it. In that moment, you rise from being a participant in chaos to being the observer of it, and the observer is always free. You'll also start noticing how peace attracts peace. When your energy becomes calm and grounded, life begins to mirror that. You attract people who value peace, conversations that bring clarity, and situations that unfold smoothly. The outer world reorganizes itself around your inner vibration. You no longer chase stability, you radiate it, and everything that doesn't align with that peace simply fades away on its own. This doesn't mean you'll never feel emotions again. You'll still feel anger, sadness, fear, and pain, but you'll no longer become them. You'll see them arise, breathe through them, and let them pass. You'll learn to witness the fire. Without stepping into it, you'll discover that emotions, when not fed by reaction, lose their power quickly. They move through you, like clouds passing across the sky, visible for a while, but never permanent. The power to stop reacting also brings back your focus when you are not constantly consumed by emotional noise. Your mind becomes sharper, more creative, more capable. You start making decisions from wisdom, not wounds. You stop wasting energy on trying to control others or fix everything around you. Instead, you invest that energy into your growth, your goals, and your peace. You realize that true control doesn't come from trying to manage life. It comes from mastering yourself. In Buddhist practice, there is a simple truth. When the mind stops reacting, it begins to reflect like a still pond. It mirrors the world clearly. You see yourself and others as they are, not as your emotions paint them to be. Compassion naturally arises because you understand how much pain comes from unconscious reaction. You stop judging others harshly because you've seen how easily the mind can be trapped in reactivity. This understanding deepens your kindness, your patience, and your wisdom. Stillness then becomes not just a practice, but a way of living. You walk slower, speak gentler, and listen deeper. You no longer need to prove your worth. Your peace proves it for you. People will notice the calm around you and wonder how you maintain it. But your secret is simple. You no longer let the outside world decide your inner state. You've discovered the sacred art of letting go, of choosing silence over noise, awareness over impulse, and peace over reaction. There's an old Buddhist saying, "The one who conquers himself is greater than the one who conquers 1,000 men in battle." When you stop reacting, you conquer the battlefield inside you. The mind that constantly wants to fight, control, and win. You realize that true victory is not over others. It's over your lower self. The mind that once controlled you becomes your servant, and peace becomes your natural state. So the next time life tests you, when someone provokes you, when a situation falls apart, when emotions rise like storms, take a breath and remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky. The sky never reacts to the thunder. It simply holds space for it to pass. That's your true nature, vast, calm, untouchable. The moment you stop reacting, life no longer has power over you. You begin to respond from awareness, love, and understanding. You start to live from the inside out instead of from the outside in. And that's when life truly changes. Not because it becomes easier, but because you become unshakable. The chaos remains, but you walk through it like a mountain, steady, grounded, and free. 9. The moment you stop reacting, you step into real freedom. There is a turning point in every person's life. A quiet, almost invisible shift when you realize that peace was never about controlling your surroundings, but about mastering your inner world. That moment comes when you finally stop reacting. You stop letting every word, every event, every disappointment dictate how you feel. You stop being a prisoner to people's moods, outcomes, or expectations. And in that instant, something remarkable happens. You taste freedom for the first time, not the freedom that comes from changing your life, but the freedom that comes from no longer being controlled by it. Most people spend their entire lives reacting. Someone gives them approval, they feel happy. Someone criticizes them, they feel hurt. Something goes right, they feel secure. Something fails, they feel lost. Their emotions rise and fall like a leaf tossed in the wind, completely dependent on circumstances. But as long as your peace depends on what's happening outside, you will always be vulnerable. The weather of life will keep changing, but if your mood changes with it, you'll never know. Stillness. Buddhism teaches that reactivity is bondage. It ties you to the illusions of control, fear, and attachment. Every reaction you give strengthens the ego, the false sense of I that constantly seeks validation and fears loss. The ego feeds on drama, on winning arguments, on being right. It makes you believe that silence is weakness and that reacting is strength. But the opposite is true. The day you no longer feel the need to respond to every provocation, defend every opinion, or chase every outcome, that's the day your ego begins to die and your true self begins to live. Freedom is not found in running away from problems. It's found in realizing that nothing outside you can truly touch you. Someone insults you, but the words only have power if you absorb them. A plan fails, but the pain only lasts if you clinging to how it should have been. Every time you choose calm instead of chaos, patience instead of anger, and awareness instead of reaction, you take back a part of yourself that was lost in the noise of life. Imagine standing in a crowded marketplace. People are shouting, arguing, laughing, buying, selling, chaos all around. But you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel a deep, unshakable stillness inside you. You begin to see that even while the world is loud, you can stay quiet within. That silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It is the understanding that you are the observer, the one who sees everything, feels everything, yet is controlled by nothing. When you stop reacting, you start living with awareness. You no longer move on autopilot. You begin to choose how you respond. Instead of being pulled by your emotions, you become aware of your triggers. And instead of exploding, you begin to ask, Why does this affect me? What belief am I holding on to? Slowly you discover that much of your suffering did not come from others, but from the meaning you gave to their actions. As this understanding grows, reactions slowly turn into reflection, and reflection is where wisdom is born. A mind that reacts lives in survival. A mind that observes lives in freedom. When you react, you give your power to what disturbs you. When you observe, you take that power back. You become like a mountain, still, strong, and steady, while the winds of life pass by. The mountain does not fight the storm. It lets it pass, and when the sky clears, the mountain remains the same. This is what happens when you master your inner state. The storms still arrive, but they no longer disturb you. Freedom also means forgiveness, not only of others, but of yourself. When you stop reacting, you stop judging so harshly, and you begin to understand that everyone, including you, is acting from their own level of awareness. You stop taking things personally because you realize that most people's behavior reflects their inner pain, not your worth. This understanding frees you from the endless cycle of resentment and revenge. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace and inner silence. As freedom grows, you start to notice how the world tries to pull you back into reaction through fear, anger, news, and constant comparison. But the awakened soul simply smiles and steps back. You begin to value your peace more than being right, your stillness more than being noticed, and your calm more than being understood. You realize that nothing is worth disturbing your inner sanctuary. And here is the great paradox. When you stop reacting, life begins to respond differently. You become magnetic. People sense your calm energy, and situations that once felt overwhelming begin to unfold with ease. The same problems that once shook you now feel small because your perspective has grown. You've stopped swimming against the flow of life. Now you move with it, and in that flow, things slowly begin to make sense. There is an ancient Buddhist teaching that says, when the mind becomes still, the universe gives way. This means that when you stop resisting, life no longer needs to push you to awaken. When you stop reacting, your energy settles into peace, and peace becomes your natural state. From this place, clarity rises. You begin to make choices not from fear or impatience, but from inner wisdom. You do less, yet accomplish more. You speak less, yet your words carry meaning. You live quietly, yet with deep strength. Freedom is not a place you reach, it is a realization. The understanding that you are not your emotions, not your thoughts, and not your circumstances. You are the awareness that watches them appear and fade. The moment you truly see this, you become untouchable. So the next time life tries to provoke you, remember this: you always have a choice. You can react and give your peace away, or you can pause and protect it. You can allow the world to pull you into noise, or you can stay anchored in silence. The real victory is not in winning arguments or controlling outcomes. It is in remaining calm while everything tries to disturb you. Because in the end, freedom is not something you earn. It is something you remember.